Hey, this is Flocka MG. You're watching a 416 interview.
Alright, talk to me about the first time you got into music. What was like the first instance of you creating music?
Alright, so like the first time I really got into music was like during COVID. So like before that I was kind of into my sports. Like back in Australia we love our sports and stuff. So I was hella into like footy, basketball, things like that. So it wasn't until when COVID hit and everyone was in quarantine and we really had nothing else to do, where it was just like, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna make some music. You know what I mean?
Okay, bet. And then talk to me about like growing up in Australia. You know, like talk to me about the Australian music scene and if it had any influence as to like artists you are now.
Okay, yeah, nah. So like growing up in Australia, fuck, it's hot over there. So like, it's not really a lot of winter, so I'm really getting used to the cold out here. But a lot of sports, you know what I mean? Like, just a lot of activities in general. The music scene, it kind of like came late, I'd say, hip hop, you know, like 1-4 boys and all that. Shout out them from Druitt, you know, in the Western Sydney areas. Like them boys, you know, they had the Hef boys. They had a couple of other boys. Manu Crooks was a little bit before that. But it was more like it started a bit later on, you know, like the hip hop industry and back home in Sydney is just starting to get going really now, you know what I'm saying? So it's more like I kind of grew up listening to other people, jazz and shit. I wasn't really listening to hip hop till later on in my life.
Is like the American and Canadian music scene like right there?
Yeah. So like the American scene, like I'd say the UK scene's also real big there too. Like people love their drill. Like Australia really love drill music. Like that's really a lot what you hear in Sydney is just a lot of drill hip hop. So I'd say like America, like they listen to Chief Keef, all those. They love their drill. They love their Lil Durks, people like that. You know what I'm saying? They're more the role models.
Okay, bet. And you know, being an Australian artist, like when you first started out, what were some kind of like the biggest barriers you had to face as an emerging artist from Australia? Like what kept you going?
I say I feel like the biggest things I faced, like coming into the industry, was just being independent. You know, like my music kind of like blew up overnight. Like I said, during COVID, I was in Fiji. My album just took over overnight. I just built a fan base, and then it was like just continuing to drop consistently while also not letting everybody in my ear kind of get to me. Because, you know, there's like a lot of fake people in the industry too. It's just what goes with it, you know. I feel like there's a lot of people that are really like, I don't know what the word is, but they're just kind of stubborn, like, you know, really self-centered. So it's just more like I'm kind of an artist that kind of wants to unite and always grow and just be around music, you know, just see people get better. So I think it's just challenging in terms of working with other artists as they just, you know, it's hard to get in contact with them or they want to play a bit a celebrity, if you know what I mean. But that's kind of really the only challenges.
Talk to me about the creative process that you have behind a song. Like, are you a freestyler? You like to songwrite?
I'm a bit of both, really. So I'm gonna say it like this: is like I'll be freestyling in my head, and then as soon as something gets in my head that I like a certain bar or a certain, you know, flow, I start to put that to paper. So it's like I might be freestyling out loud, like I might hear a beat and I like to hear over it twice just to feel the type of flow I'm gonna be on. And then it's like once I've done that, it's like, you know, then I start, you know, putting pen to paper. So it's kind of a bit of both. Like I'll freestyle, but I also love to write, you know, be creative with it. Ad-libs, all that, just switch it up a lot. I like to do that.
Talk to me about your artist name as well. Like, what's the story? How did you come up with Flocka and
Alright, so like basically Flocka, he's basically a group of people, you know what I'm saying? So growing up back home, it's like I had a bunch of boys, and it's like every time we went to block parties or certain events, like shout out my boy RJ and Ringo and all them boys, but we'd always kind of pull up in a flock. Like, so I had a lady one time say like, oh, you pull up like a flock of birds. And then MG is just my initials, like my government name and my last name. Yeah.
I bet. And over time, how would you say your sound has evolved?
I'd say my sound is is still evolving, but drastically. Like when I first started, I was just more in a drill, and I played around with melodic sounds a little bit. Whereas now it's more like it's melodic, it's trap, there's goofy beats, there's a whole range old school. It's just a whole lot of like different beats I can hop on now just from the experiences traveling around the world a little bit and just like getting ideas from different people. And it's still evolving to this very day, which I love about music.
Yeah. And in an industry where, there's a lot of artists coming up, it's very saturated and very competitive. What keeps you motivated when things get challenged?
What keeps me motivated really is just like, I believe like everyone needs to figure out their own sound. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of artists struggle with trying to look up to certain people or trying to sound too much like someone. I feel like once as an artist you can figure out your overall sound and who you are as an artist, it makes it a lot easier because you stop worrying about the competitive market rather than competing against other people. You just start competing with yourself and see how far you can go, and I just feel like it's easier. Like as soon as you give a bit less of a fuck, it's a lot easier, stress-free, I like to say. That's really it.
I bet. And as someone coming up from Australia, how important is like networking? With producers, artists, industry people in cities like Toronto, New York, and other global hubs. I
feel like it's very important. Like a lot of artists back home don't have the privilege to do so like I do. But I feel like as an artist, like especially if you want to push out into a more global fan base rather than just your own city, it's vital that you push out and link up with new artists, you know what I mean? And don't be afraid to always learn something new. You don't got to be the biggest dude on the block the whole time, you know what I mean? You can always learn from the older, the younger generation, all that type of shit, and just get better as an artist. So I just feel like it's really important to work with other artists to help them grow, but also help yourself grow.
All right, bet. And where do you see yourself 5 to 10 years from now?
I feel like in 5 to 10 years, I'll just be traveling around different cities, different countries, performing, as well as like working with all the major underground as well as the bigger mainstream artists from each city. So my plan is just really to just travel the world, be inspired, always learn new crafts, new pieces that I can add to my, flows and whatnot, and just, kind of like just be able to travel the world, do what I love doing, really.
Okay, bet. And then for other young artists in Australia, just in Australia, who do you who look up to or who kind of can look onto your path of like moving abroad? What advice would you give them?
I would give my young artists back home, like, just stay with it, stay consistent. Like, you don't always got to worry about like making the best track and just focusing on that single track. I always say, get in the studio. It's like being in the lab. It's like being in the gym. The more you practice, the better you're going to get, the more consistent you get. Hard work always beats fucking talent and skill, so just stay in the studio, stay long nights, work on the sound, and bro, not everyone has to believe in you, have the right people around you. Don't have just all yes men. Have the right people around you so you can consistently grow. And bro, the sky's going to be the limit, bro. Just keep pushing. Don't worry about the things you can't control. Just worry about the things you can control and constantly improve and get better at it. That's really it.
Lastly, talk about what's coming up for you. Any projects?
Yeah. So we got an EP coming out first week right after New Year. The first week after New Year. It's going to be 6 tracks. And then right after that, just before the summer hits, you're going to get an international tape. That tape's going to have Canadian artists, Dominican artists, Jamaican artists, Houston artists, man, the list goes on, but there's going to be a lot of different artists on there just before the FIBA World Cup, so stay tuned, man. Flocka MG, he's locked in right now, I'm telling you.
Bad bitch, met her in Jamaica. She said fuck with niggas from Australia. So high, think she run for mayor. Business type of vibe, need a tailor. Captain of a boat.